I was just joking with them Sycamore fans. He's the busiest man in Terre Haute these days. That's Josh Schertz, new head coach for Indiana State Sycamore basketball. Coach number one, it's great to finally have you in Terre Haute. I know you've kind of been all over the place recently. You've been able to maybe calm down a little bit and get settled.
Yeah. It was, it's great to be here. Obviously, finished the season up there at LMU and in Evansville, actually, obviously, ironically, in Indiana, and had a great run with those guys, and then back home quickly to pack, and then here, and kind of through week one, first few weeks, anytime you take over a job are hectic. There's a lot of moving parts, and so working our way through them, but got a lot accomplished here in week one, and hoping for the same here in week two.
I know you took time in your press conference to talk about the Rail Splitters and how much you really appreciated your time with them. And we haven't caught up with you since the season ended. I know as heartbreaking of a finish you could probably have to a year, but
yes,
I know that's a special place. It'll always be a special place to you.
Yeah, that place will always be a part of me and have my heart. I was just so grateful. To take a chance on me as a 32-year-old. Never been a head coach, first time head coach, and not only that, but to be at a place that, just the support, the empowerment, the commitment, it was unbelievable. We have a lot of great friends there. Spent 13 years. It's a place that it's one thing I'm glad about. At Indiana State, I can still root like crazy for LMU to win the national title every year. I don't have to. I'm not in the same division. We'll still keep some LMU gear, and I'll still be cheering them on every single time they play. And I love that institution. I love that program, and certainly this year's team, with all it went through, and to finish, as you said, kind of the maybe as difficult, not maybe the most difficult loss of my career. There in the Final Four and a buzzer beater, a tenth of a second from playing for the national championship. So those guys, though, I told them afterwards, my only regret was the outcome. Everything else, they couldn't. They laid on the line. They gave it everything that they had. They have, unbelievably proud of them, and they'll in time. They'll have some perspective. It'll always hurt. Somebody asked me, so when do how long will that take you to get over? And I said, I'll never get over it. I'll take that one to my grave, but you move forward from it, and you have perspective over time, and you really, the goal always is to end the season with no regrets and feel like you got everything out of it that you could as a team. And I feel like we did that. Anytime you're at where we were at Lincoln Memorial and the season ends and you don't win a championship, it's always a disappointing end. But it doesn't define the season. The season was I thought those guys got everything out of it, hit their ceiling, and as a team and as a coach, that's how you judge it. You can't judge it on the stuff you can't control, the outcomes. Did we get everything out of it? Were we the very best we could be? Did we maximize our abilities as a team? And that group, I really feel like it did and played its best basketball, coming off a 4-week break going to the NCAA tournament.
You now turn your attention here to Terre Haute in this program. When you start off at LMU, it wasn't the LMU that it was today. When you look at the similarities of when you took over that job to this job here in Terre Haute, what are some of those similarities and why probably you wanted to make the jump and come here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities. Anytime you take over a new job, there's usually a reason behind it, and when I got over to LMU, similar to here, you have a roster that was pretty depleted. I think we only took from the team that I inherited 3 guys that were able to make the transition, and that's part of a coaching change. Depending on the external factors surrounding a coaching change, they can be more seamless or more choppy or difficult. But you can't control that, right? And so you have to focus on the things you can. But I think having a roster that we have to kind of build it, and that's going to take a lot of time, and effort. And I think similar. To what we had to do at LMU, put the piece together. And there's downside of that is you have some good players that aren't coming back. And the upside is you get to put your stamp on it probably a little bit quicker relative to, I told the guys when I got here in the team meeting, I said that, I chose to come to the United States. I chose to come here and coach. None of those guys in that locker room chose to come play for me. They didn't choose to come play for this culture, this system, this style of play. And I completely understood and respected that. And everybody has to do what's best for them. I told them, for guys that were going to return, really there was 2 boxes. One, you had to be bought into how we were going to do things. And people get into, well, you're changing stuff. Different doesn't mean better, different doesn't mean worse, it just means different. I have to be me, and I have to do things the way that I think they should be done. It doesn't mean it's better or worse than the way they were done previously, it just means they're going to be different. And guys had to be okay with that and be bought into the vision and culture we want to establish here. And then the second box was they had to fit systematically into how we wanted to play. And again, different doesn't make it better or worse, it's just a different style of play and the things we value and what's needed to be successful. You don't ever want to put kids in a situation where you're setting them up to fail. So those are the two boxes. And we've had some kids that are not going to be here that we want back, and other guys maybe want to come back and then not a good fit, and so you have some different things in those transitions. But the thing that I think is we've tried to do at both places, hired a great staff. I did it when I got to LMU, much smaller staff, but it was two people and myself. But I hired a great staff that's working their tails off around the clock. We have worked to kind of you're sitting there and you're kind of building it from the ground floor. The way things have worked out, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have to kind of build it from the ground floor. It was already pretty good and we got it. Sometimes you got to take steps back to take steps forward, and so we're working on putting the roster together. There's a lot of work to do to build a roster that's going to be competitive in the Missouri Valley, but we're just like we were when we were taking over at LMU. I see the potential in it. I think I understand the challenges, but I also see the opportunities, right? And I think I'm focused on those opportunities, and not that you're going to go to the Final Four every year at Indiana State like you did at Lincoln Memorial, but I do think we have opportunities to build a program here that people will enjoy and take some steps forward.
We'll get to your staff in just a moment, but you really brought up just kind of the culture and the character of the guys you're looking for in the program, looking for those boxes to check. What are important in terms of those boxes for you, in terms of the right fit and the right guys that are coming? And really not even just from a schematic standpoint, just of the culture and the team you want to build.
I think, always it's about having shared values, right? You have people, doesn't matter, that's what I love about sports, you can throw race out the window, you can throw urban and rural, you can throw international, domestic, anything, religion, it doesn't matter, right? It's about having shared values. And to me, what we're looking for are guys that have shared values as it relates to work. There's no secrets, there's no shortcuts. We talk about the longest distance between 2 points, a shortcut. So you have to work, and you have to have guys that love it. I think if guys don't enjoy working, aren't in here to be the best version of themselves, they're going to be pretty miserable because we're going to work. You got to have a shared values relates to competition. Competing every day inside the lines against your teammates, and then competing in one of the best mid-major leagues in the country and the unbelievable teams and coaches that make up the Missouri Valley Conference. And then you got to have a shared value as it relates to the importance of winning, and that being the priority over stats, over individual recognition. I think when you can assemble a group that, obviously there's the things you need from a tangible standpoint, whether it's the skill sets that fit and all those things. But those shared values, does a guy love to work? Does a guy love to compete? And to me, there's a big difference in liking to win and hating to lose. Does a guy hate to lose? And then are they willing to prioritize winning over everything else? When you get a room full of people that have those shared values, you can cast aside all the differences, and that becomes the common thread that binds everybody together. And that's where the magic is. And I always tell people, everyone wants to know, oh, it's a secret. The secret is in the work and the people. But you have to get people that are aligned, because I think something Nick Saban said, well, high achievers don't like mediocre people don't like high achievers. It's the same thing. If you're a guy who loves to work and you're a guy who's super lazy, they're going to have trouble getting along. You got to have as many people that critical mass that's bought into that standard as possible.
In terms of building your team, how does the transfer portal change all of it in terms of today's college basketball, and where maybe if this happened 5 to 10 years ago, it's a little bit of a different dynamic?
It is. It's a unique it's a unique time in Division I basketball for sure. I'm coming from a situation where it was the polar opposite of this, right? Like, we had unbelievable continuity year in. We had, I think, one player over my 13 years that we wanted back that transferred. Everybody, if I was back at LMU, our entire starting five and our subs would have been back. And so you have this incredible continuity. We called it, we thought a big advantage for us was corporate knowledge is what we called it. That corporate knowledge of how we do things, how we work out, how we practice, how we go about our business. I had the same assistants, I had the same players, and most everybody redshirted stayed for 5 years. It's a different world now, particularly in Division I, where guys are, hey, I had a good year, I want to transfer up. Oh, I didn't play enough. I'm going to transfer because I didn't play enough. So if you play really good, you leave, and if you don't play enough, you leave. So I guess the balance is for somebody to play averagely well, and they want to come back. I think from a recruiting standpoint, it's good. But I'll say this, in our situation with the portal, you're looking at it and you're going, we need to get guys that are impactful players in the Missouri Valley. Well, the portal is huge with the amount of players, but that's not a huge pool. And they got to not only be impactful players in the Missouri Valley, they got to fit our system and they got to fit our culture, because we're not going to just take a kid to take a kid. We're not going to take anybody with red flags. We're going to stay true to, not just trying to build a great team, but try to build a program and get guys that we can. I said it, I think in the press conference. It's counterintuitive, but you got to get guys you can lose with. You got to get a staff and you got to get players you can lose with, because if you can lose and stay together and stay connected and not split apart and continue to work and continue to push forward, that's the foundation for winning. And it doesn't happen overnight, but that's how you build a consistent winner. So it's a smaller pool. Everybody right now, I think if I put my name in the portal, I would have 5 Power 5 offers. But that's not going to be the way it is. It's going to eventually shake out. And there's only so many Power 5 guys that are going to go, and there's only so many. So as it gets tiered down right now, like I said, everybody, all 1,200 guys are going to the Power 5. It's not going to work out that way. But we got to be very meticulous, and we've got to be thoughtful about who we take. We can't just go out and take chances. We're not going to go out and just throw out offers, and we're not completely focused on the portal. There's some high school kids that can impact us that we're trying to get involved with. There's certainly some really good players in the portal that we're trying to get involved with, but we want to put together a roster, like I said, that the guys check those boxes relative to how we want to play, and most importantly, the kind of program, and represent the kind of program we want to be. Because ultimately, there's wall culture and there's real culture. We can put whatever slogans on the wall, but the culture is the people, right? So it's about getting the right people, and we're going to be, very, very diligent about that and staying true to what we know we need to do, not deviate too much from making sure we take the right kind of kids.
When you think of speaking and getting the right people, of course, you're putting a staff together. Where are you at in the process of getting your staff together, and in terms of the completion of your staff?
Well, it's completed. It's not announced yet, but it's completed. We got obviously K. Rich is back, and we're happy to have him. Bring some continuity, and he knows lay of the land. When I took the job, the biggest thing for me was to get guys who could expedite my learning curve. There's a learning curve for me coming to the Missouri Valley Conference about how the conference works. There's a learning curve relative to Indiana State, and certainly, how to navigate recruiting at this level, right? Those are the biggest things for me if you're being self-aware that, hey, these are going to be areas that I need to help, surround myself with people that can expedite that learning curve. So K. Rich knows Indiana State inside out, second time here. He knows the players, knows the lay of land, knows how this place works, understands the Valley. Matthew Gray, and he has great, obviously, recruiting contacts throughout. Matthew Graves, is from the general area. 13 years at Butler, 6 or 7 as the associate head coach for Brad. Between he and K. Rich, I think 3, national championship games at Division I level and won a national title. And so guys that are really experienced. Matthew knows everybody in Indiana. He's renowned for obviously great high school player, great player at Butler, and his time here. And both those guys have the added benefit of having been, head coaches in recent time. K. Rich at UMKC, Matthew obviously at South Alabama, and then we got 2 guys that are here that we can't announce till May 1st, just the way the contracts work. But they're here and they're working, so for free. So just like I was for a couple weeks. So everybody, we're volunteering, working about 16, 18 hours a day. So I appreciate those guys. But both those guys come in with really good Division I experience. Both have spent the last 4 or 5 years as a top assistants at good Division I programs. And again, just surrounding myself with guys that understand this level, that are going to help expedite my learning curve, make sure that we're doing the right things, and I want to make sure we put together as good a staff as possible. The players are important. When I got the job, getting in and getting my hands around the roster, building relationships with the players and figuring out who was coming back, who was leaving, all that stuff, and certainly recruiting, but nothing was more important than the staff, because that really, the players are the lifeblood, your staff is your backbone, and you got to surround yourself with great assistants, and I think, I'm working alongside of an incredible staff. I'm excited.
I know you're in the middle of workouts right now, Coach, and putting this whole thing together. I know this may be a difficult question to really ask or end on, but how do you see kind of the fruition of your team coming together, and when you kind of can expect to have a full team together?
Yeah, I mean, I hope, workouts aren't that hard right now because there's like four or five players, so it's really not that, everything is pretty easy when you have such a small handful of people. But, I'm hopeful that, we'll announce some signings this week, and we'll add, hopefully 3 or 4 pieces to what we have. And then certainly there's still a lot of work to be done. I think the hardest work is ahead of us, to fill out the roster. The hope would be is that when we're in summer school in June, that we have as close to a full roster or a full roster in terms of what we're going to play with here in 21, 22, because we're in skill development stuff right now, and obviously it's a small group because we only have a couple players, and it would be anyway. But when you get in the summer, you want to that's the time to kind of build some foundational pieces. You're not in here, practicing like crazy, but you want to put in the structure, the shell of what you want to look like when you get into November. So that's the goal. I think we come back for summer school sometime first, second week of June, and would be to have as close to a full complement. So 2 months from now would be hopeful, and hopefully it's less than that. The thing is always just making sure that we're getting the right guys, and we're going through that process, and we're doing our research. And again, the easy part usually is how do they fit talent-wise? They fit in our system. And then the more difficult part is doing the background and making sure they're our kind of guys. They're cut from that. We always say, they're our kind of guy at LMU. Like, are they our kind of guys at Indiana State? Do they love to work? Are they competitive? Are they winners? How do they value that? And then obviously the skill piece, we'll know. But I think we're making progress. Like I said, we'll announce hopefully 3 to 4 signings this week, and then we still got a bunch of work to do from there. But this is again, it's not ideal, but it's not a bad thing, because we're going to be able to get our kind of guys in here. We're going to get guys that are bought into how we want to. Our culture and vision of Indiana State basketball, and we're going to get guys that fit our system. And so I think, while not the perfect scenario, and we certainly didn't want some of those guys that left to leave, we're respect their decisions. Like I said, they didn't. I chose to come here. None of those guys chose me, and now we'll move forward with guys that are bought in and fit.
I know the one thing is for certain, this is probably the longest you've sat in one spot since we have encountered each other for the last couple of weeks.
Yes,
so,
yes.
But number one, it's great to have you here, Coach Schertz.
Thank
and
you.
Appreciate the time, and definitely look forward to seeing this thing grow with you here in Terre Haute.
Well, we're excited. Thank you so much for having me on, and look forward to working together. It should be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun, folks. For more on Coach Schertz and his staff and all the news with Indiana State basketball, you know where to stay, and that's GoSycamores.com.